would be cool to do like Miranda catchphrases, but then decided it was lame, so forget it. Doesn't matter. Hi, welcome to Christy Gray's Scarlet Pen. Oh. Hi, welcome back to Christy Gray's Scarlet Pen. I am an author, creativity chaser, and book lover. Today, it is time for another book versus the movie. This has been on my shelf, on my list, for a long while now. It has been sitting in my bookcase, I kid you not, since the last time when I stopped book versus movies for quite some time, and it is only now that I am getting to it. But here we are. We are watching and reading The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger. So, one of these movies that I watched when I was, a person on this planet, growing up, I guess. It's a weird way to phrase it. I watched the movie first, had no idea it was based on a book, and when I found out, I was very interested. It's just the most boring, chaotic, annoyingest video I've ever shot in my life. Alright, let's power through, shall we? We'll make gold out of a pile of stuff. I watched the movie first, and then I decided when I found out it was a book, let's try it out and see which was better, the book or the movie. So, love the film, it's a great film. And then I decided to read this. I would call it a masterpiece, but it wasn't for me. It was fine. Gotta be honest, I'm gonna come out right to bat. Normally I wait till sort of the end to say which one was better. The movie was better, in my opinion. This, for me, was a lot of little bits and pieces, these little moments in this girl's journey as she is the assistant to, a boss who is just a horrendous human. And it's little bits and pieces that don't really have anything to do with each other. What the movie managed to do was bring in, a couple of different ideas that thread togeted somehow. The whole James Holt situation, not even close to being in here, but that sort of ended up being thread throughout for a couple of different things. And so I liked that rather than a couple of not a couple, but a whole bunch of random chaotic moments in this chick's life as she is sort of, being an assistant to an awful human being. There was no redemption story for Miranda Priestly in this book, whereas in the film, I think in the end, they sort of tried to make her look a bit more human. Now, look, I will be honest with you right here and now. There are more books. There are more. And so for all I know, some of those bits and pieces are actually in the follow-ups. I'm not going to read them, so I won't know that. Let me know in the comments if that's the case and you've read them and you know that that is what happens, that Miranda gets a divorce and is, seen as mildly human. And sort of at the end, I liked at the end, Meryl Streep sort of gave this glimpse and she looked at her and was, she just reminds me of me, and then turns back and is to her driver is like, what are you doing here, you idiot, go! So she's mean, but she's also a human, whereas this book was just she's just a cruel person and has absolutely no humanity. And, I don't know, I feel like bad guys can be bad guys for bad guys' sake, that's fine. I don't necessarily see why we're going with this whole thing of oh yes, the evil Maleficent actually has a backstory that makes her feel more human. No, she was a bad guy for bad guy's sake. Own it! Who cares? Own it! Maleficent wasn't even a human really anyway, so why should she be able to have a backstory of goodness in her life? This is why she's the way she is. Well, too bad. Stuff happens to you and it makes you who you are, but you don't have to blame your past. Blame your trauma, blame your past. Guys, go to therapy and work on it. Anyway, whatever. All the villains in the world, I feel like they need to go through villain therapy. There's a series on, oh my gosh, YouTube channel that I like. Cinema Therapy, and they do villain therapy, they look at it through a therapist lens. Anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter, I suppose, whatever. I'm getting beside the point now. There was little bits and pieces like that where the movie felt more of there was more of a thread that you could hold on to throughout, even though there was small moments that weren't necessarily, essential to the plot with Miranda and Andy and whoever else. It's just still felt like there was more of a connection throughout the entire story. We got a lot more, Andy had way more interaction with her, although Andrea is always what she's called in the book, but a lot more interaction with family and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, that's fine. She had a bit more of an extended sort of situation with her family. Her boyfriend situation ran a little different, I will say. Although in both situations, I was always just like, with the end with that relationship, I was always just like, oh, all right, whatever. So, but whatever. Not everybody ends up with a happily ever after, guys, apparently. I like to think that that's not true. That you can actually have a good life, but whatever. You make the change you want to see in your life. If she'd have quit, she wouldn't have had all of this problem. Like, I get it. Like, in the film, they made it really clear that if she wanted to be the journalist that she wanted, at the magazine she wanted, she had to sort of do this to be able to get there. And it was her only shot and her really good chance to do that. In the book, she sort of fell into this job by mistake, almost. And was like, yeah, I probably want to be a journalist, but also like, yeah, it's fine. Like, that's the vibes that this book gives. Anyway, whatever. So, look. If you want a bit more of an in-depth, actual, proper, in-depth review on bits and pieces that were really different and that were really similar and, you know, all that kind of jazz, I will be putting it on my website, christygracescarlettpen.com/blog, where I'll be posting an actual, more in-depth, real, proper review. This, I've just decided, is going to be one of these because this is the mood I'm in today. So this is what you're going to get in terms of the book versus movie. If you want proper, serious Christy, like, you know, analysis, head to my website. Honestly, it's not going to happen today, but this is what you're going to get. This is what we're filming. I have said stuff. This stuff is being relevant. I mean, it's being relevant. Yeah, the movie won for me. It was better. I felt like I cared about the characters more. I liked the character of Nigel. He's not in this book. Versions of him are semi in this book, but I just liked him. Yeah, it was just kind of odd. To read this, and I just didn't enjoy it as much as the film, and I don't know, I didn't care as much about the characters. I was just, you know, I couldn't care less about brands. I've never cared about brand names. I've always thought if you can get a cheap pair of shorts instead of a pair of shorts that are basically almost exactly the same but have a brand name on them, why is it so important that a pair of pants or a top or a piece of clothing has a word on it like Prada? I mean, who cares? Why is that important to you? I mean, everyone's allowed to have different things that are important to them. So, you know, you do you. If that is important to you, do you, babes. If you've got the money for it, especially, get ahead. Just don't get in debt for that, because that is just a silly decision. I mean, come on. And honestly, if I ever saw somebody who had, like, Prada, whatever, unless it literally says Prada all over it, we can't tell. We can't, most people can't tell that it's a brand, unless it literally has their name all over it. So, I mean, I know rich people can probably tell. I will concede the point where Miranda just takes Andy to school in the film about, you know, the pile of stuff. Whereas like, oh, you think you're making a fashion choice that's exempt, whereas in fact, you've made a selection that was chosen for you by the people in this room. I'm not saying it's stupid and it's useless. I'm just saying, if you don't have the money for it, just don't go into debt for it, because that's dumb. If you've got the money for it, you go for your life, boo. I can't tell you how to spend your money. I can't even tell people who don't have the money how to spend their money. So if you want to go into debt for a piece of clothing that has a name on it, go for your life. Just know that your worth is not tied up in how you dress or what you buy. Yeah. So I think maybe that's semi reasons why sometimes this rubs me the wrong way just a little bit. I'm like, why are you putting so much of your value and your worth in this stuff? It was so much fun to see the fashion and the clothes and all that kind of jazz. Like, you see it on the screen rather than just imagine that people are dressing, you know, relatively nicely. I don't like too many things where people are just mean to each other all the time. So, yeah. I feel like, too, Emily, the character of Emily, much nicer in the book than she was in the film. It was more like we're in the trenches together rather than you're my rival, which is what the movie sort of did it more. Which is fine. Like, that's a perfectly fine choice. But I did like the camaraderie a little bit more. Thank you for watching, you guys. If you want to see any more book versus movie, I have a playlist on my YouTube channel where I have done quite a few, and quite a few recently, to be honest, where I am trying to get through the copies I already owned in my bookcase before I move, because if I want to get rid of something and unhaul it, then why drag it all the way to a new house with me? So, you know, there you go. There are still a few more to come. Some really fun ones I have in my bookcase that I'm excited to read anyways. Keep on the lookout for that. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the adventures.